Hello everyone. Look, I don't know about you, but when I was in middle school and high school, one of my least favorite things was feeling like there was pressure to figure out my entire life like right now. Like I had to figure out who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, what school I wanted to go to, what I wanted my career to be, where I wanted to live, all of that. And I was like, I don't feel like I'm ready to make these big decisions for my life. And it can feel even worse if you feel like God has a specific plan that you need to follow. I mean, you don't want to throw off the entire plan of the universe because you chose to major in history instead of English. I mean, think of the consequences. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about God's plan for our lives, and I think you're going to like the answer. So let's get started right at the obvious one. Jeremiah 29:11. I guarantee you have heard this verse before. Even if you've never been to church, you've heard this or seen it on some Live, Laugh, Love wall decor at TJ Maxx or Ross or something. And ain't a bad thing. It's a reminder of God's plan for his people and that God's plans are for good and not for evil, and that they give us a future and a hope. You know this. The thing with this specific verse, though, is a little something that's very, very important whenever you read anything in the Bible, and that is context. Oh, yes, context. Like, context basically just means putting into understanding what was happening around the time and the area when Jeremiah wrote this. Basically, why he was writing it. So, the context is Jeremiah was written around the year 600 BCE. Jeremiah was writing as a prophet to God's people. God was speaking to Jeremiah. Jeremiah was speaking to God's people. Pretty big deal in that day and age. Now, when Jeremiah wrote this verse about God having a plan and how God plans to prosper us, it was probably not very well received, and here's why. Jeremiah is writing to people who are in exile. They got kicked out of their homes, their culture and their lands were stolen and destroyed, and they were forced to live under someone else's rule. And it wasn't just a quick thing, it was like an extended amount of time where they weren't able to go back to their homes. They had to follow someone else's rules. It was just a bad time. And so Jeremiah says, I know the plans I have for you, that God is saying that they're plans for hope and for a future. And the people who are hearing this are probably looking at their lives and saying, how? Like, we've been waiting for God to save us from this. I mean, remember when last year when this whole thing was, sick, 2 weeks off of school, hey, and now it's like, I can't do another Zoom class. Understanding the context of what's going on helps us to put this into the true meaning. That Jeremiah 29:11 isn't just some catchy little verse to put in an Instagram caption or in our bio. That it's this heavy, weighty message that even when things aren't going well, and even when things have not been going well for a long time, that God still has a plan, that God is still good, and that God's plan will come to good things in the end. Ooh, so good. That's so good. All right. Okay, so you get context, you're smart, but you're saying, well, that doesn't really help with my decision right now. I know that God's plan in the long term is really good, but I've got a few decisions in front of me. All of them look good. What do I choose? And the answer is kind of whatever you want. See, I really think that God is way more concerned with who we are rather than what we do. God is more concerned with who we're becoming rather than with what we're doing. I mean, look at it this way. In Matthew 22, people are trying to figure out God's plan for their lives, and not what they do per se, but how they live. We've talked a lot about how the Old Testament had all of these rules on what to do and what not to do. So there's like, okay, do this rather than that. And that kind of like helps to make some decisions. But when someone asks Jesus what the most important rule is, he doesn't say it's what to do. It has to do with your heart. Jesus replies, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor and yourself. all the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. So that's what Jesus thought was the most important thing. Not tithing, not making sure that you're, being a good farmer, because back in the day that was like what most people were, farmers or carpenters, and there weren't like engineers or accountants back then. There were probably accountants. So that's what Jesus thought was the most important thing in our lives, was loving God and loving others. Now, if you do like a Google search or something about God's will, you'll find other verses, but it's usually less go and make this decision and more be more like Jesus. I mean, there are things like give thanks in all circumstances, or to be sanctified, which just means to make decisions, live your life so you look more like Jesus. These things aren't really necessarily about what you do, it's about who you are. And then because of who you are, you act a certain way. Like even Jesus himself came down with an idea of who he is and how that's going to impact what he does. I mean, look at Matthew 20:28. Jesus says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So to figure out what God's plan is for your life, look at the decisions in front of you. Think, okay, which decision is going to let me serve others? Which decision is going to show that I love God and love people the most? How can I make this decision not based on success or money or fame, but more on being a servant and showing others the love of God? See, it's that easy. And it's not that easy. It's totally okay to be indecisive or to not be 100%, especially on really big life decisions. But please know that no matter what you do, like it's totally okay to not be 100% sure or be a little indecisive, especially on really big life decisions that we all have coming up. But please know that no matter what you do, no matter what you end up deciding, that God is concerned with who you are. And so as long as you are loving others, looking for people to serve, and loving God, everything's gonna turn out all right. All right? Hey, this Friday, May 14th, we're gathering for Alive Alive. I know it's finals week for a lot of people, and so we're just gonna have a really chill hangout, just have some fun, blow off some steam together. I really hope that you can make it. Register in the link in the bio. All right, see you on Friday.